Ecclesiastes chapter 12 verse 1 says, "Remember your Creator in the days of your youth, before the days of trouble comes and the year approach when you will say, I find no pleasure in them." John Hawkins in his research once said like this: there are people who forget names of 83% out of 100. There are 60% people who forget what they have kept somewhere. Some people are there, 57% people are there who forgets phone number, and 53% of people are there who forgets the word that they have spoken. And if we see this list somewhere or here, we will also be found that we will forget our names, we will forget the phone numbers, we forget what we have said, in which context we have said, and we sometimes fight. Remembrance plays a lot of significant role in our life. When we remember, we actually know the mistake that we do. When we remember the life of our past, we understand that who we were and who we are now and who we will be in future. According to Bible, remembering or remembrance or remember has a lot of profound truth and implications in personal life of a spiritual being. Remembering is going back to the aspects of life and understanding how you and me were, and not to do the same mistake that we have done in our past. Author of Ecclesiastes, Solomon, the preacher, is exalting his readers to remember your Creator. Life consists of different stages. When God formed us in the womb of our mother, we were just a kind of organs, and we got a form and we developed and we came out of mother womb as infant, and there was childhood and there was teenage, and we were also called as adults or adolescents, and we passed adulthood and then seniorhood, and then our life ends with death. These are the stages of life. And here the preacher called Solomon is emphatically saying to remember thy Creator while you are youth. In our school days, most of us have learned life's principle with this hand, with these 5 fingers. Our tiny small pinky finger shows that we are small. Our life is short and we are a short life people. Our ring finger shows that we are taller, yes, and we are also stronger, and represents that we have a lot of responsibility. And the middle finger explains to us that we have to gather wisdom, we have a future of parenthood, and we have to regard our future. And the thumb finger shows to us that life without this finger is difficult, and we can't do anything without this finger. In the same way, without hard work, without lot of responsibility, without taking care of our future, we cannot do anything. But we have to understand one finger, that is index finger, a finger which points out others or which shows that this is very much important. These fingers are considered as our parents and our God. If this finger is unable to work, then all other 4 fingers are unable to process anything in life. God did not create our fingers in same equal level or equal measurement. The reason is, if God would have created this finger with equal measurement, we are unable to even hold a pen or spoon, or even unable to eat the food. Therefore, God had a meaning when He was preparing our body. Therefore, this index finger reminds us, when we see of this finger, to remember our parents, our elders, and our God who created us. Here, the preacher, in his end time, according to some scholars, they say Solomon wrote Proverbs in his young age, and he wrote Song of Songs in the time of his youth and while he was enjoying the world, and Ecclesiastes when he was in old age, when he understood the truth. At his old age, he explains to the audience or he exhorts his listeners to remember thy Creator. Remembering God is the first and foremost principle that you and me have to learn as we grow up in our life. My hearers, in our life we remember a lot of things and we forget many things. We remember some silly things and we forget some important things in life. But Solomon exalts to us to remember thy Creator, which is not a silly thing, which is an important, which has significant aspect and practical focus in our life. Therefore, I would like to entitle my sermon as Remember and Reflect on Your God. Remember and reflect on your God. Remembering is very much important, and reflecting on your future with God is also important. That is what I will be talking today. Remember is the word practically means to fear God. As you remember, fear God. As you remember your God, you love God. As you remember your God, you faithfully serve Him. As you remember your God, you worship Him. As you remember your God, understand who He is. As you remember your God, contemplate on the truths that you have learned. And as you remember your God, you also serve your brothers and sisters in this world. Remember means to respect God. Remembrance means to revere God. Remembrance means to revolve around your God. To respect me. To remember means to request before your God. To remember means to rely upon your God. My dear brothers and sisters, when your own body betrays you, when your body will say to you that it is not good for anything, remember your God as I encourage you this evening. When you lose your energy, when you lose your strength, when you lose your eyesight, when you lose your all abilities to walk, before that, remember thy Creator. In the days when you get older, that the life which is filled with sorrow, grief and hurdles, where you have to face sharp realities, remember your God. There is a days that you are about to face pain, disability, suffering, sickness, physical weaknesses. Before that, remember your God. Better time for you and me to remember God is today. As my dear brothers and sisters, my youngsters, my young brothers and sisters who are listening to me through this video, I would like to encourage you, than remembering the phone numbers of your friends, than remembering the names of your ex or so and so, than remembering anyone in this world, than remembering all the car's name or of all what things of this world, I want to encourage you, remember thy Creator. Remembering God means, as I said, to revolve around Him, to re-trust Him, to understand His real nature, to contemplate on His being in your life. This evening, through this video, I would like to encourage, remember thy Creator. Why we have to remember our God? Because Ecclesiastes chapter 12 verse 1 to 8 explains to us how our old life or our seniorhood will be affecting in our life. With beautiful sentence, Solomon has explained in these verses. In verse 2, he says, our sight will be dimmed and we will be depressed. In verse 3, he says, our hands will tremble. We will stop speaking more, and our postures, our gestures will lose its actions and its abilities of showing off, and we will also lose our teeth. And in verse 4, he says, in our old ages, we will lose our hair, and even more than that, our hairs, our black hairs will turn into gray hairs. And in verse 5, he says, we will be increased with fear, and we will think of our future as very dumb. And also our old age will go with slow movements. We will not able to walk as fast as we are today. And verse 8, he says that our spinal cord will be weakened. we will have mental pressures, mental disorders. We will become like children, and unconsciously we will do a lot of things. Our end will be a kind where we will never imagine. My dear brothers and sisters, our end will be what we don't think today. But before that, I want to encourage you. Remember thy God as you begin your life today. We can never understand this way in our life. We need to understand our life from the beginning to end. That is why I have entitled my sermon as Remember thy Creator and reflect on your future. Remember and reflect. It is very easy to remember the enjoyment and all enthusiasm that we received through the worldly pressure. But it is very difficult to remember your God. Satan will never allow us to remember God because he knows if you remember God, you will end up with blessings. Therefore, he tries hard to stop you remembering your God. Dear brothers and sisters, it is very easy to neglect your Lord in this age. This world says you have young, short age. Therefore, rejoice, enjoy, take use of all opportunities, and don't worry about your spiritual life. Worry about your physical enjoyment. But through this video, I would like to encourage my dear brothers and sisters. There are times of difficulties are coming. There are times of pain is approaching you. There are times where you will say, I find no pleasure in this. Days are approaching you. To overcome those days, today, remember thy Creator. During your youthful year, where sky is bright, where your blood is burning, where you have all energy that you needed, remember thy God. Before storms hit you, before waves race against you, before you walk on the water, before you do lot of things which will worry you, remember thy Creator. Deuteronomy chapter 8 verse 18 says, but remember that it is the Lord your God who gave you the power to gain wealth in order to confirm the covenant that is sown to your fathers even to this day. Nehemiah chapter 4 verse 14 part B says, remember the Lord who is great and wondrous. Psalm number 63 verse 6 says, when I remember you in my bed, my eyes is filled with tears. In night, I, Lord, remember you. I remember your name that I may keep your law. Psalm 119 verse 55 says, remember thy Creator. My dear brothers and sisters, remembering is very much important. But whom you remember is also a significant aspect. Solomon clearly says to us, remember thy Creator. God who created you, God who formed you, God who took you with his hand and formed you into being and gave you the living breath. Here, the word creator is used in a Hebrew form. It is called as Elohim. There are 2000 times the word Elohim is mentioned in Bible, which has the meaning God who has the potential to create, God who is supremacy, God who is excellence, God who says and it will be existent. And that God have created you, and you have to remember that God. There are so-called gods in this world. There are uncountable gods in this world. But if there is a true God, exclusively, let me say, it is God of Bible whom I preach. He is the God who created heaven and the earth. He is the God who gives you salvation. He is the God who grants you eternal life. And He died for you. And He will come one day to take all of us to be with Him. Remember Him in your youth. My dear brothers and sisters, youth is a time of enjoyment. Youth is a time of sensitive ears. Youth is a year of energy. Youth is a year of teachable. Youth is a year of dangerous. Before that, remember thy God. Youth is a good time to develop our relationship with God. As youth, I request you and myself and all my hearers to remember thy God in youth. Satan, our enemy, always says, youth for pleasure, middle age for business. Bible, prayer and fellowship and worship is for old people. So in your youth, don't remember God. That is what Satan always says. But today I want to encourage you. in this young age, remember thy Creator. When you remember thy Creator, you will understand that you have to respect Him, you have to revere Him, you have to fear Him, you have to trust Him, you have to read His scripture, you have to pray to Him, you have to have fellowship with His church, you have to live with Him, and you have to understand who He is. That is what remember thy God means. Isaiah chapter 40 verse 30 to 31 says, even the youth shall faint and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fall. But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up like wings like eagle. They shall run and not weary. They shall walk and not faint. What it means, in our life we will fail, we will be fainted, we will be worried, we will have lot of problems. But those who wait upon the Lord, those who remember God, those who trust God will never go weary. They will go up and up. They will mount like eagle and they will fly for God's glory. Therefore, remember thy God in this age. Remember thy God as you meditate. Remember thy God as you hear this text. Remembering is very much important. Even remembering also has to lead you to reflection of your future. Never be afraid to trust an unknown future into the hand of known God. Your God is the creator of your future. My God whom I preach, He was and He is always there. He is the beginning, He is the present, He is the future. In past, in present and in future, He is there. If Jesus' plans of God was blessed, then your future is also blessed. If Jesus' future was glorious, then your future is also glorious, my dear brothers and sisters. But Solomon encourages us to reflect on your future. Why we have to reflect on our future? Because painful days are coming, evil days are coming, problemful days are coming. When we say there is no pleasure in our things are about to approach us. When you have to face in your family life lot of problems. Why today we are facing unimaginable problems in our life? Why Christian families are being divorced? Why parents and children doesn't have a close relationship? Why there is conflict in church? Why there is conflict among brotherhoods? Why there is fight between family members regarding properties and lands and assets? The reason behind is we haven't remembered our God in our youth. The wrong route that we are walking today is because we were not shown the right route to walk. Today I want to encourage my dear brothers and sisters. Before you go and worry in your future, start remembering your God. If you want your future to be glorious, if you want your future to be blessed, if you want your future to be bright and glorious and blessed, remember thy God as you hear this word. Reflect your future means why choosing a path of struggle? Why you put your soul in danger for forgetting your God in this season of enjoyment? Why to risk your life for a bit of fun? Reflect upon your future. Reflecting God will lead you to understand who your God is. Reflecting on your future will help you to understand why you are in this world. Reflecting your future will tell you to why you are going forward in your life. There was an incident that took place in American Revolution. I would like to say this and conclude today's video. An incident from American Revolution which illustrates a tragedy can result from procrastinating. It is reported that Rahel, the commander of British troops in Toronto, New Jersey, was playing card when a courier was brought with an urgent message saying that General George Washington was crossing river, and Rahel put the letter in his pocket and did not bother to read it. Until the game was finished, then he realized the seriousness of situation. He hurried and tried to rally his men to the meeting and coming attacking. But his procrastination was undoing. He and many of his men were killed and the rest of regiment was captured. Because he did not thought of future, he was so connected with the present enjoyment. He and his regiment, his men were killed in that battle. My dear brothers and sisters, future is dangerous. Future has lot of threats. Future will have lot of problems. I'm not making a conscious of fear in you, but a hopeful thought. When you remember thy Creator, your future will be blessed. If you remember thy Creator, you will have a blessed and happy life. Therefore, remember thy Creator at this stage. May God bless you with this short meditation. Thank you.